Well, hello there and welcome to my workshop. Now in this series I'm building a classical style acoustic guitar, but with a difference. I do hope you'll join me. In the last episode I cut out 5 tiny dolphins from shells, and in this episode I want to inlay them as the side dots on the neck. So let me walk you through my process. I've got the neck secured to the bench using my neck clamp, which in itself is clamped to the bench. I've also clamped a piece of wood on top of the fretboard to give me a stable surface to work on. I've got a very fine router blade in the Dremel. And okay, well, let's start off with how I mark it out. I've marked the position of the first dolphin. I've put some masking tape on there, just draw some lines around so I know exactly where I'm working. And what I'm going to do is put a little strip of this double-sided tape on top of that. Now this tape is clear, so I should be able to see the lines underneath, like so. Right, if we just peel this off. There we go. Now I can position the first dolphin where I want it. So I'm keeping it between the top and the bottom line there. Now press that down. Okay, so that's being held by that double-sided tape. Now it's a question of marking around it with a sharp blade. What I want to do is just cut through the tape. Now, it's really fiddly going around with the knife, so I'm also going to go around it with a pencil so that if there's any parts that I haven't cut properly, I should be able to just spot them and tidy it up. Okay, so now I'm going to try and lift this dolphin off. That's that. Take the sticky off the back if I can. Okay, it helps if I get rid of this double-sided tape because it's very sticky. Right, now then, classic Dave there gets rid of the double-sided tape, also gets rid of the pencil mark. Right, what I want to do now is peel off the dolphin shape. And there we have it. Now, it's not quite right, but it's pretty close. I just need to block off the top of that fin there. So now I've got something to work to. There we go. Right, I'm going to just take that off. Now we need to route out that shape. Right, well, it's taken a little while, but I've got that deep enough now for that to go into. So I'm going to put some super glue in and yeah, we'll fix it in place. I'm going to tease it round a bit. If I can find something to tease it with, should do the job. Right, I'm going to rub some dust and glue around that. Well, that's one done. It's taken me about an hour to do that, and I think I've learnt something from doing it. I was using this attachment on the Dremel sort of to guide it, but in actual fact it's much better to do it freehand, just with this fine, it's a PCB router bit. It seems to be easier to do that, so for the next one that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think it looks alright. I found some Zebrano dust, so that's what I've filled the gaps with, so we'll just see how that looks when it dries. Okay, so here I have the 5 side dot dolphins in place. I'll just take that off there. Going to have to do a bit of work on the top there, perhaps a bit more filler, and going to have to sand those off, but I'm not going to touch them. I'm going to let it really dry off, and then sand it down. Now it's been a few days since I put those inlays in, and the other day I came out and I sanded it all back, and unfortunately I'd forgotten something, and that is when you mix wood and glue, it dries much darker than the wood. And I use the Zebrano dust to fill in the gaps around my dolphins because my cutting wasn't absolutely perfect, as you can see. And unfortunately the Zebrano has gone very dark and effectively given me outlines around the dolphins which I don't want. Now I experimented with different dusts, and so here we've got the Zebrano dust, and this is the Zebrano which I tried mixing with a little bit of water and some of this Gorilla Glue, and as you can see it goes quite dark. I then tried some oak, which is, here's the oak dust, it's quite light. I mixed it just with this Gorilla Wood glue and no water, and again it came up much too dark. So then I tried mixing a bit of the pine, if I can find the pine, here I called it dark pine, but that isn't dark, is it? Yeah, mix that with a bit of water and some of the Gorilla Wood glue, and it came up with that, which looked not too bad actually. I then tried some oak. Here's the oak. No, there's the oak. There's the oak, again mixed with a little water and some of the Gorilla Glue, and yeah, that was all right. Now I tried beech, and I've made a bit of a mess here, but I don't know if you can see it underneath there. That was my first attempt, and that was some of this beech with water, and again it wasn't too bad, but it was quite dark. Then I tried a different approach. I've got some of this PVA. Now this is some of the PVA you use in building, put in cement to give it strength. It's quite runny. So I mixed some of this PVA with the beech, and I got a much lighter beech colour. You can see it smeared over the top of the previous one, and that was much closer to the Zebrano. So in the end I've plumped for that. Now I've used the beech on the three of the worst dolphins, these three here, and I'm quite pleased with the result. Now I've tried putting a little bit of oil on this. I won't do it again because I have to keep sanding it off, but once I put oil on, that difference sort of fades away. And I'm also thinking of staining this blue to match the top of the guitar, so I think that's going to hide it. So I'm going to leave it as it is now. It's always a bit of a dark art, I think, getting dust and glue to go to the sort of shade that you want. It very much depends on how much glue's in the mix, how much water you've added to the dust, and obviously the colour of the dust. And of course the worst thing you can use, in my experience, is super glue, because that just turns the thing almost black. So yeah, it's been an interesting few days, but anyway, I think I've got my 5 dolphin side dots in. So the next thing to do are the inlays on the top of the fretboard and to get this neck shaped, but that's going to have to be left to the next video. So I'll see you then. In the meantime, stay safe. Cheers.